They knocked on my door with a clipboard and a smile that wasn't friendly. The HOA fine was already printed, my name misspelled, the amount circled in red. I hadn't broken a rule yet, but Karen had decided I would. What happened next changed everything. I moved into the neighborhood believing quiet streets meant peaceful neighbors. Trim lawns, matching mailboxes, polite waves. Then Karen appeared. She was the HOA president, self-appointed, voice sharp, eyes always searching for violations, trash cans out too long, curtains too dark, grass half an inch too tall. Everyone feared her knock. That morning she stood on my porch with 2 board members behind her, arms crossed like security guards. She informed me I was being fined for unauthorized exterior modifications. I asked which ones. She smiled wider and said the notice explained everything. It didn't. Just a threat, a deadline, and a promise of escalating penalties. I tried reasoning. I followed the bylaws. I had approvals. Karen leaned closer and whispered that approvals could be reconsidered. She enjoyed that sentence. The neighbors watched through blinds while I signed nothing and closed the door. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from resolve. That night I reread every HOA rule, page by page, line by line. Karen had power, but only inside the lines. And inside those lines, I found something interesting. An upgrade clause, rarely used, perfectly legal, completely overlooked. The next week, Karen returned, confident and loud, ready to stack fines. But she froze when she saw my driveway. Her smile collapsed. The clipboard lowered. The board members exchanged looks. I calmly handed her a folder. Inside were permits, approvals, and a highlighted section of her own rules. She tried to argue. She always did. But this time the rules spoke louder than she could. Neighbors stepped outside. Phones came out. Karen's authority cracked in public, and she knew it. This wasn't revenge. It was compliance, done better than she ever expected. And the upgrade? It didn't just stop the fine. It flipped the entire balance of power in the neighborhood. What Karen didn't realize was that attention is oxygen. By pushing publicly, she fed curiosity. Meetings filled. Questions multiplied. People reread bylaws. Silence disappeared. The neighborhood changed tone overnight. Whispers turned into conversations. Conversations became strategy. I wasn't alone anymore, and she sensed it. Power hates witnesses. The moment everyone started watching, her leverage weakened. She could threaten one homeowner, not an informed community. That realization hit her face harder than any argument ever could, and fear quietly switched sides, settling where it belonged. With the bully exposed at last, completely undone, Karen didn't wait long to strike back. 3 days after the meeting, a certified letter arrived, thicker than before, heavier with intent. Inside were new violations, vague, overlapping, aggressive. She claimed my upgrade caused visual disharmony and set a dangerous precedent. The fines doubled. The deadline shortened. The tone turned personal. This time, neighbors noticed immediately. One stopped by with coffee, another with printed bylaws. They'd received warnings too. Different reasons, same handwriting. Karen was panicking. Her authority had been questioned, and she responded the only way she knew, pressure. I attended the emergency HOA meeting she called, walking into a room buzzing with tension. Karen sat at the head of the table, jaw tight, voice rehearsed. She opened by accusing me of exploiting loopholes. I responded by reading the rules aloud. Slowly, clearly, word for word. Every interruption she tried failed. Every objection bounced back. The bylaws were unambiguous. My upgrade was compliant, approved, and protected. Worse for her, it triggered another clause she had ignored for years. Equal enforcement. If my upgrade stood, others could demand the same consideration. Faces around the table changed. People who once avoided eye contact now leaned forward. Questions flew. Past fines resurfaced. Selective enforcement was spoken out loud. Karen's gavel hit the table, but no one listened anymore. She adjourned abruptly, storming out while murmurs followed her down the hall. That night, a neighborhood group chat appeared. Then another. Screenshots of violations circulated. Patterns emerged. Karen's favorites. Karen's targets. The illusion shattered completely. The next morning, she came to my door again. This time alone. No clipboard, no smile. She offered a compromise. Drop the fines, she said, if I voluntarily reversed the upgrade. I declined politely on camera. Her face hardened. She warned me about consequences. What Karen didn't understand was that she had already lost control. The rules were no longer weapons in her hands. They were shields in everyone else's. Once people learned how to read them, her intimidation stopped working. By the end of the week, a formal petition circulated calling for an audit. Signatures piled up faster than she could counter them. Karen still believed this was personal. It wasn't. It was structural. and structures fall when enough people push at once, calmly, legally, and together. Her next move wouldn't be paperwork. It would be something desperate. Behind the scenes, emails flew, lawyers were mentioned, and fear spread upward. Board members quietly distanced themselves from Karen, refusing calls, delaying replies. Authority without consent collapses fast. She felt it slipping, minute by minute, replaced by scrutiny, documentation, and collective confidence she could no longer intimidate. Karen's final move arrived disguised as confidence. She announced a community compliance walk, inviting city inspectors and claiming it would restore order. Flyers appeared overnight, dripping with authority. She framed it as transparency, but everyone sensed the threat beneath it. This was meant to scare people back into silence. The morning of the walk, neighbors gathered outside instead of hiding. Phones were ready, folders were open. Karen arrived overdressed, flanked by two inspectors who looked mildly confused. She began narrating violations loudly, pointing dramatically, performing control she no longer had. Then the questions started. Calm, precise, relentless. Why were certain homes never cited? Why were approvals ignored? Why were fines issued without hearings? The inspectors listened. Karen talked over them. That was her mistake. When they reached my property, Karen announced my upgrade again. Voice shaking with forced authority, I handed the inspector my documents. Permits, emails, bylaw excerpts. He nodded, thanked me, and wrote nothing down. Karen froze mid-sentence. Across the street, another neighbor stepped forward with similar paperwork. Then another. Karen's exception became a pattern of compliance she had denied others. The inspectors stopped following her script and began asking their own questions. Her role shifted from leader to subject instantly. One inspector pulled Karen aside. Their conversation was quiet, but her posture collapsed. She glanced back at the crowd, realizing she no longer controlled the narrative. Someone recorded everything. Someone always does. By the end of the walk, the inspectors announced they'd found no actionable violations among the documented upgrades. Instead, they requested HOA records for review. Karen protested loudly, accusing residents of manipulation. It only made her sound guilty. That afternoon, an official notice arrived requesting a formal audit of HOA enforcement practices. Karen tried to spin it as routine. No one believed her. Board members resigned one by one, citing personal reasons. Her emails went unanswered, her calls ignored. The power structure inverted quietly, without shouting, without threats, just exposure. Karen still showed up at meetings, but no one deferred to her. Motions passed without her input. Her gavel became symbolic, then irrelevant. Eventually, she stopped attending altogether. The neighborhood felt lighter. Conversations replaced whispers. Kids played outside again. People smiled when they saw me, not because I'd won, but because something larger had shifted. Fear was gone. Karen thought control came from intimidation. She never understood that rules, when shared, empower everyone equally. The upgrade wasn't the weapon. Knowledge was. And just when we thought it was over, Karen made one last decision that sealed everything permanently, in writing. Karen's last decision wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, written, and irreversible. She filed a formal complaint against the HOA itself, claiming harassment, targeting, and procedural misconduct. In doing so, she accidentally triggered the very review she had spent years avoiding. Once the complaint was submitted, external oversight stepped in automatically. Documents were requested, emails subpoenaed, enforcement histories compared. Karen believed she could control the narrative on paper the same way she had in person. She couldn't. Paper doesn't get intimidated. The audit findings were devastating. Years of selective enforcement, improper fines, ignored appeals, missing votes. Karen's name appeared everywhere, tied to decisions made without quorum, warnings issued without authority, penalties escalated without justification. What she framed as leadership read like abuse of power. The report was shared with homeowners first, then lawyers, then the management company. Karen was removed as president in a closed session she wasn't invited to attend. Her authority ended not with confrontation, but with silence. A week later, all fines issued under her tenure were frozen pending review. Some were refunded, others erased entirely. A new board was elected, transparent and cautious. Their first action rewriting enforcement procedures in plain language. What once felt like a trap became a system people understood. Karen moved out 3 months later. No announcement, no goodbye. The house sold quietly. When the moving truck came, neighbors watched without celebration, without resentment, just relief. The upgrade that started everything remained untouched. It became a symbol, not of defiance, but of possibility. Proof that intimidation only works until someone reads the rules. Months passed. The neighborhood changed in subtle ways. Meetings ended early. Laughter returned. Disagreements existed, but they were resolved openly. Fear never regained its footing. People still ask me if it was worth it. The stress, the tension, the risk. I tell them the truth. It wasn't about winning. It was about refusing to shrink. About understanding that compliance doesn't mean submission. It means clarity. Karen believed authority was something you took and guarded. She never learned that real authority is granted, conditional, and fragile. The moment it's abused, it dissolves. All it took to end her reign was one upgrade, one rulebook, and one decision not to back down. And that's how a single fine, meant to silence me, ended up changing an entire neighborhood forever, restoring balance, trust, and the quiet peace everyone thought they had lost for good. If this HOA Karen story shocked you, hit like, subscribe for more real HOA confrontations, and comment below. Would you have backed down or fought back like I did?